A sexual assault allegation takes the Chinese internet by storm. One of China's biggest sports players is accusing a former top official of sexual misconduct. Reports say people in China are stocking up on essentials, while Chinese state-owned media outlets are spreading fake news about Taiwan, saying island residents are panic buying over fear of a war. Combating a pandemic isn't an easy task, but for residents in one Chinese city, leaving town isn't either. One young woman tells her story after a 7-month ordeal. Yahoo is leaving China completely. An expert says U.S. companies like Yahoo cannot afford China's censorship. And China's reported hypersonic missile test surprises the U.S. But according to a former Defense Department official, this is not enough to serve as a wake-up call. Hello, everyone. I'm Evelyn Lee, in for Tiffany one last time this week, and welcome to China in Focus. First, we turn to a sexual assault allegation that shocked China's internet users. It's causing waves because the country's party officials have rarely been called out by alleged victims for this kind of abuse. And in this case, the accuser is one of China's biggest sports stars, Peng Shuai. She was world's #1 tennis doubles player in 2014. As for the accused, he used to be one of China's most powerful men, the country's vice premier. His name is Zhang Gaoli. In a social media post, Peng accused Zhang of assaulting her about 3 years ago. She says the two then had a 3-year relationship afterwards. Peng is 35, Zhang is in his 70s. Peng wrote that she didn't keep any evidence of the assault and only has her real experience, adding, "I know for someone as powerful as you, Vice Premier Zhang, you said you're not afraid. But even doing this is like hitting a rock with an egg or a moth to flames courting self-destruction. I'll tell the truth about you." China's internet censorship mechanism soon took action. Peng's social media post was removed within minutes, and internet users can't comment on the older posts on her account. In the meantime, Chinese media is staying silent, and the internet's surge of related coverage on China's largest search engine Wednesday returns no result. In a press conference, a reporter asked China's foreign ministry about the censored allegation.
The allegations and subsequent discussion of them have all been censored from the internet. Do you have any comment to make on the allegations or on the censorship?
And China's foreign ministry spokesperson responded.
I have not heard of this issue. This is not a question related to foreign affairs. Next question.
Aside from all the buzz, a China observer says it's no coincidence that Peng chose this timing to break the news.
I think she has her eyes on the political infighting between party elites, and for her, it's an opportunity.
Sheng says bringing out the allegation at this time is safer for Peng Shuai because Zhang belongs to a political faction that's rival to party leader Xi Jinping, and a sexual assault allegation would be useful for the Xi faction to crack down on its opposing faction. And the timing is important because all the party elites are expected to convene for a big political meeting in November. And in Chinese Communist Party history, leaders have used big meetings like these to consolidate their power. Chinese people are panic buying. They're worried about a possible food shortage. A grocery store owner told the Epoch Times they sold 4,000 pounds of grain in less than an hour. NTD's Don Ma has more.
After the Chinese Commerce Ministry issued a notice encouraging families to stock up on essential goods, panic buying ensued. U.S.-based newspaper The Epoch Times conducted an on-the-ground investigation of the situation in China's Changzhou city, Jiangsu province. Grocery shops in the city told the newspaper that they can't keep up demand because of the panic buying.
People are snapping up goods like crazy over here. This morning, 4,000 pounds of grain were transferred to the store, and all of them were gone in less than an hour. I bought 2 tons of rice last month. It will probably be gone tonight.
An employee at another store in the city said the buying frenzy started on Tuesday night.
All the stores are experiencing buying frenzies. Instant noodles and thick noodles are all gone. Vegetables are gone too. Now there is not much left. Our supermarket has placed emergency purchase orders.
An employee from another supermarket says people are mainly buying up food.
Right now, people are all buying grain, oil, and flour. I think there's not much left. Rice and instant noodles are all gone. There's not much left on store shelves.
The Chinese Commerce Ministry's notice stirred up a social media storm in China. The intense public response led state media outlets to release reports aiming to calm public panic. Authorities are also trying to contain the situation on Weibo. The hashtag the Ministry of Commerce encourages households to store necessary life essentials, which was viewed over 54 million times as of Tuesday, now appears to be removed from the platform. Don Ma, NTD News.
Are Beijing residents panic buying food or not? Conflicting reports are circulating. A local state-controlled media outlet reported Wednesday that in some supermarkets in Beijing, residents were buying rice, noodles, and condiments in large quantities. Residents there said they heard authorities were encouraging families to stock up on essentials, so they went out to buy extra goods. But not long after, the media outlet's article disappeared from the internet. China's Ministry of Commerce also chimed in, calling the country's supply of daily necessities stable and sufficient, and adding it's fully guaranteed. It looks like Chinese state-owned media is once again spreading fake news about Taiwan, and most Chinese people are buying it. Recently, state-run outlets such as China Daily and China News published reports saying that Taiwanese people are worried about a Chinese attack on the island and panic buying essential supplies. The outlets accuse the Taiwanese government of hyping up cross-strait tensions, causing the public to panic. This has become a hot topic on Chinese social media platform Weibo, gaining over 500 million views. In Taiwan, crowds of people are seeing in stores buying up, but it's likely not because they are worried about war. Taiwanese netizens said the crowds are spending their so-called 5-fold coupon. The coupon is similar to a gift card. The government issued them last month to encourage people to spend more and stimulate the economy. And it seems to be working. People are out spending their coupons before they expire. Traveling from place to place can be a hassle, but one young woman in China's Raleigh city is dealing with travel hurdles to the extreme. She shares her unexpected experience over the last 7 months. Raleigh is located near the Burmese border in southwest China and is one of the biggest jewelry trading markets in the country. Since the end of March, all factories and restaurants there have been closed. No one is allowed to enter or leave the city except for special reasons. What's more, since the start of summer, all businesses have been shuttered except for hospitals and a handful of grocery stores. A young woman living in the city posted a video online at the end of last month. In it, she described how she and her family want to leave the area but can't afford the costs associated with it. It's the same situation many residents and families in Raleigh have found themselves in over the past few months.
就拿我们一家6口来说吧。离开需要酒店自费隔离7天，那么这7天自费隔离的费用大概在9000块钱。这个只是我们离开瑞丽的费用，还不包括我们回到家的机票钱。从来没有想过离开一个城市会这么艰难。
She added that the troubles don't end once they can leave either. After their departure, they may face another round of isolation.
还有一个政策就是，离开瑞丽48小时之后，我们就会强制性变成黄码，需要我们再做3次核酸才可以变成绿码。那像一些管控的比较严的城市，它是看到你是黄码，它可能又会要求你在原地隔离一段时间。
Despite her difficulties, a new change may spell good news for residents. Early this week, local authorities announced plans to simplify the procedure for residents looking to leave the city. And for those who can't afford to quarantine in hotels, can instead opt to stay in quarantine centers at a lower cost. But is it really the answer for those hoping to leave? A video posted online offers a glimpse into one of the quarantine center's buildings. The person who shot the clip explained that there is no hot water, and the tap water looks yellow and has an unpleasant smell. He also added that it's incredibly hot inside. The day of the video's posting, the high for the area was over 83 degrees. In the end, he questioned whether this type of quarantine center is actually capable of helping battle the pandemic. A dozen Chinese provinces began vaccinating children as young as 3. Schools say it's on a voluntary basis, but parents are taking it as compulsory.
Elementary schools in 12 of China's provinces started vaccinating students last week, including all children ages 3 to 11. One district in Guangzhou City planned to give over 4,000 students their first dose of the vaccine within just 4 days. The other districts also started following that lead. Under pressure from authorities, some schools are viewing student vaccinations as a political task and are trying a variety of means to get them inoculated.
The teacher said, if you don't get vaccines, you can't go to school. My daughter told me that. The teacher will give those who aren't vaccinated a hard time. He will label them as disobedient children. Look, it's the case too in parent chat groups right now. They use countless methods to target you in the group so that you as a parent would feel that if your child doesn't get the vaccine, your child will be considered a weirdo.
Some parents also expressed concerns about the quality of the vaccines.
I should say that many parents are against it, even those who usually support vaccination. Maybe they don't want their kids to take this risk. My mother-in-law was left paralyzed after she got vaccinated, and now she can't get out of bed. So for the child, I definitely don't dare to take that risk. Anyway, I strongly oppose this kind of experimental vaccine for children.
Lin referred to a case in August. A 12-year-old girl in Henan province died 2 weeks after getting a Chinese-made vaccine. Her mother was then beaten and detained after asking local authorities to look into the girl's death, and after going to Beijing's central communist government to seek justice. Lin has already gone to local authorities, asking them to stop forcing young children to get the jab. He also requested that authorities apologize to those who were forced to get vaccinated. What's more, he called on more parents to stand up and protect their children's rights.
American tech giant Yahoo says it's completely pulled out of China. It's not the first well-known company to do so, and an expert says it may not be the last. Yahoo just stopped all its remaining online services in China Monday. A spokesperson says it's because the increasing challenging business and legal environment in China. On the same date, China's personal information protection law went into effect.
In China, it's just getting very, very hard for companies like Yahoo or LinkedIn to maintain a presence because their business model depends on streams of information that come from data providers, news providers, users.
LinkedIn also recently decided to shut down operations in China. It says it was facing a significantly more challenging operating environment and greater compliance requirements. Core says just recently Chinese officials asked the company to remove people from the Chinese version of its website.
It's not feasible from a just pure profit perspective to be operating in China anymore for some of these companies, especially if they are going to be hit with huge fines for improperly censoring their own content.
And because of it, he says there is a very high likelihood that there will be increasing decoupling from the West. China's clampdown on tech companies wiped away trillions, and then it tightened gaming regulations. Now Epic Games is shutting down Fortnite in China.
It's been proven time and time again in history that communist approaches to economics, command economic approaches, just don't work. They drive out capital. They decrease the efficiency of the production process.
Core says he doesn't think the Chinese regime wants to have a closed economy, but it's going in that direction because Chinese leaders think they have more control over the economy than they can possibly have. Francis Lun, CEO of the company called Geosecurities Limited, said Yahoo had already cut their news service in China previously, and their market share in China is very insignificant. So the new move won't harm Yahoo's overall business much. He added in China, hundreds of thousands of sensors are monitoring the internet 24 hours a day. So it's almost impossible for U.S. companies like Yahoo to operate in China. The European Parliament is taking a new step in showing its support for Taiwan. A delegation of Parliament members is making a first official visit to the island. They spoke highly of Taiwan's democracy in the face of threats from the Chinese Communist Party. NTD's Joy Duguid has a story.
A delegation of the European Parliament arrives in Taipei. It's the first official visit of an EU delegation to Taiwan. Taiwanese Premier Su Cheng-chang said the visit signifies stronger ties with Europe amid tensions between Taipei and Beijing.
Although we are geographically very far away, between our two sides we share the same values, such as freedom, democracy, human rights and rule of law, as well as the insistence of supporting free trade and fighting disinformation. In those regards, we are actually very close.
The The delegation is composed of 13 members of the EU's Committee on Foreign Interference in Democratic Processes. Chair of the committee, Raphael Glucksmann, said their visit shows Taiwan is high on the agenda in Brussels and for every member state.
And I think that the world did not understand enough still how difficult and how courageous it is to build a democracy while being under threat by an authoritarian regime like the one in Beijing.
Glucksmann says they also came to thank Taiwan for what it is doing for democracy worldwide.
You have shown that in this region, democracy can flourish, and that authoritarian regimes are not the future.
In October, the EU Parliament overwhelmingly voted to pass a resolution calling on the EU to begin to establish a bilateral investment agreement with Taiwan. The resolution also noted the EU greatly values security in the Taiwan Strait and called on China to put an immediate end to its ongoing intrusions into Taiwan's airspace. During their 3-day visit, the European delegation will also meet with Taiwanese President Tsai Ing-wen. Joy Dugid, NTD News.
Because of Beijing's pressure, Taiwan only has diplomatic ties with about 10 countries. In the European Union, there is only one, Vatican City. A China expert says the country's hypersonic missile test is a game changer. But while he says it's not enough to awaken the U.S. to the threat of communist China, alert Americans will never give up.
Michael Paul Pillsbury is a former U.S. Defense Department official. He served as the director of the Center on Chinese Strategy at the Hudson Institute since 2014. He shared his views on some recent Chinese hot topics with NTD's Tiffany Meyer. When asked about the hypersonic missile test China launched this summer, he called the weapon a game changer. According to Financial Times' October report citing U.S. intelligence sources, China already tested a hypersonic glide vehicle mounted on a rocket. The vehicle can carry nuclear weapons.
You launch a nuclear weapon or any kind of weapon into space, into orbit, and it stays there, then you tell it to come in and destroy something. And it can come from any direction. So missile defense or preparations don't work against it. In fact, there's almost no warning time.
With a number of countries alarmed by China's reported advancement, Beijing quickly denied the claim, saying the test simply dealt with retrievable aircrafts. When asking whether the hypersonic missile would serve as a wake-up call for America, Pillsbury said it should, but it won't. One of the reasons being China always lays low and presents a seemingly peaceful front.
And many people in America believe this kind of story. They don't want trouble with China. So it will not serve as a wake-up call, no.
He believes a wake-up call would require something as major as the attack on Pearl Harbor in the 40s.
So when the Americans on Sunday, by surprise, find their ships sunk in Pearl Harbor, 3,000 dead Navy people, then they woke up about Japan. And all this discussion about the debate about Japan is over. Now it's time for war.
Pillsbury said, for example, a direct Chinese attack on the U.S. Army would suffice. But he doesn't believe Beijing will do it. He says even though many people explicitly say they don't like China, they still buy Chinese products and are willing to invest in the country.
So we're nowhere near a wake-up call.
Even though a growing number of bills against communist China are making their way to the Senate, in his eyes, the reality of the situation isn't optimistic.
All of these bills, all of them, have about 5 or 6 co-sponsors. That means 95 senators, Tiffany, are not signing up to sponsor this legislation. It's very bad. Almost nothing passes that's really against the rise of China.
On the bright side, Pillsbury believes if China were to take action against the U.S., Washington has many ways of stopping it. He also pointed out that congressmen already agreed to propose more bills and see what can be passed in the future, adding that giving up the fight against communist China threat is not an option.
The United States and the European Union announced Tuesday at the climate change conference COP26 that about 100 nations have joined their global methane pledge. They have committed themselves to cut emissions of the potent greenhouse gas methane as part of efforts to stop global warming. China didn't join them. Here's more from NTD's Neil Woodrow.
So together, we're committing to collectively reduce our methane by 30% by 2030. And I think we could probably go beyond that.
Methane has a higher heat trapping potential than CO2, but breaks down in the atmosphere faster. That means that cutting methane could have a rapid impact on reining in global warming.
So cutting back on methane emissions is one of the most effective things we can do to reduce near-term global warming and keep 1.5 degrees Celsius. It is the lowest hanging fruit.
Analysts say fixing leaky oil and gas infrastructure is the fastest and cheapest way to curb methane emissions. Almost 100 countries have joined the pact. A UN report in May said steep cuts in methane emissions this decade could avoid nearly 0.3 degrees Celsius of global warming by the 2040s. The pledge, first announced in September, now includes half of the top 30 methane emitters, accounting for 2/3 of the global economy. Top 5 methane emitters, China, Russia and India, have not signed up. Neil Woodrow, NTD News.
And that's all for today, but before you go, we have a short announcement. China news may seem chaotic with so much information swirling in the news. We want to offer you a look at the bigger picture to help you make sense of the details. If you haven't already, use the link in the description box and subscribe to our China in Focus newsletter. On top of offering the highlights of what's going on, it also gives them much needed context behind those stories. And once in a while, you'll also get a peek into some behind the scenes content to see what we're up to. Every Friday morning, the latest will land in your inbox.